This is for Algebra 2, Section 2.4, combining functions. So this little chart at the top here, this kind of goes over from Apex the 4 different function rules that we have. So essentially we're taking like two functions, maybe f of x and g of x, and we're going to either add them together. So if you see this notation, f plus g, and then in parentheses x, it means you take the original function f of x, the original function g of x, and you're just going to add them together, okay? And then you can see this one is subtraction, so same thing. You take the original function f of x and you subtract the original function g of x. This one is multiplication, so you do f of x times g of x. And then this one, you can see f is divided by g, so you take f of x divided by g of x, which they write it as a fraction. That's how we will typically write it as well, okay? Okay, so this first example that I have here, it says f of x is 3x squared plus 7, and g of x is 4x minus 1. So we can do multiple things with this. I have an example of addition, I have an example of multiplication, I have an example of division. So I'm going to actually do subtraction with this, okay? So your directions are maybe going to be like, it might say like find in parentheses f minus g in parentheses x. What that means is f of x minus g of x. So what I kind of think of is like this function minus this function. So I'm going to write it out that way. F of x minus g of x, okay? Now I'm going to do some highlighting. I think that will help you a little bit, or help us keep things straight. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I want the function f of x. That's what I want to start with. Well, that is this function right here. So I'm going to take all that function in green, and I'm going to plug it in for f of x. So 3x squared plus 7 minus, okay, so we're subtracting, and then I want the function in, I'm going to highlight this in orange. So then I want g of x, okay? So g of x is this entire function right here. So we're substituting the expression 4x minus 1 in for g of x. Now, technically, I'm going to put parentheses around this. It's that function, f of x, minus parentheses around that, the function g of x. And then the reason the parentheses are important is because when we're subtracting, we technically have to distribute a negative to both parts. So you can't forget you're subtracting that whole function for x minus 1, okay? So this doesn't really change. I'm just going to drop the parentheses, 3x squared plus 7, and then distribute your negative. This becomes negative 4x. Distribute the negative to the negative 1, so a negative to a negative becomes a positive 1. And now we can combine like terms. So combine whatever you can. So like I'm looking at my x squared. There's no other x squared, so it's just 3x squared. Then I have a 4x. There's no other x's, so negative 4x. And then I have a positive 7 and a positive 1 combines to be 8. So 3x squared minus 4x plus 8. That would be your final answer. Okay, this next one. This has a full set of directions here. So it says let f of x equals the square root of x minus 3. I'm going to do what we did last time. So, or sorry, not square root of x, absolute value of x minus 3. And then our other function g of x is negative 2x plus 5. It says we're going to add our functions together. So again, don't let this notation screw you up. It just means take f of x and, whoops. So take f of x and add it to, f of x and add it to g of x. So I'm going to write that out. F of x plus g of x. I'm just adding my two functions together. Okay, so we said f of x was in green, g of x was in orange. So I'm just going to take that green function and plug it in for f of x. So absolute value of x minus 3, that whole function, plus, then let's plug in the orange function, negative 2x plus 5. Now, when we're adding functions, we really don't have to distribute a positive. That doesn't change anything. So we can just kind of ignore the parentheses. They don't do anything. So I'm going to ignore them, or if you would like to just write it down again, it's plus a negative 2x and then plus 5. So just write it out again. And then let's combine again. So I see this weird thing, the absolute value of x, that does not combine with anything. There's no other absolute values, so we can't just like add things together, okay? Then I have negative 2x, and then I have negative 3 and positive 5. So negative 3 plus a positive 5 is positive 2. And that would be your answer for the function addition for that one, okay? Okay, next one here. We have a function f of x. Again, I'm going to highlight this in green. So f of x is this whole long thing. It's a trinomial, 3 terms. And then we have this function g of x is a binomial, 2 terms. And I'm going to multiply them together. So you can see there's like that little multiplication dot. So that just means we take f of x and we're going to multiply g of x, okay? So again, if I kind of stay consistent with my highlighting, f of x is right here in green. G of x I'm going to highlight in orange, and I'm going to plug my functions in, okay? So f of x, that whole function in green, 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 times g of x, that whole function in orange, x plus 1, okay? Now, when we do this, this is like polynomial multiplication. So we have to take each term of this original function and distribute it to each term of this function. Or not function, I'm sorry, each term of the original, function, f of x, so that expression, all 3 terms, and distribute it to both terms of the second g of x expression, okay? Okay, so we're going to distribute. So I multiply this times both of those, okay? So I have 2x squared times x is 2x to the third. So kind of think of it, you have x squared and you're doing another x there. So it's x cubed. And then 2x squared times 1 is 2x squared, okay? Now I'm going to change colors. Now I'm going to distribute the 3x to both of these, okay? So 3x times x is 3, there's 2 x's there, x squared. 3x times 1 is just 3x. And then finally, I'm going to do in purple, negative 5 times x, negative 5 times 1. So negative 5 times x is negative 5x, negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Okay? Now let's combine like terms if we can, and I like this because they're normally like close to each other. They're kind of like together, okay? So the 2x cubed, that's the only term with an x cubed, so we just leave it 2x cubed. Then I have 2x squared and I have 3x squared. So 2 plus 3 is 5x squared. I leave that alone. Then I have 3x plus a negative 5x, or 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. And then I have this negative 5 is just by itself. So minus 5. And that's your final answer when you multiply those together. Okay, next one. It says f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 5. G of x equals x plus 1. Let's find f divided by g of x this time. So we're doing division. So I'm going to write out f of x divided by g of x. And we're not actually going to divide these. I think in Apex, they just want you to like write the next step of it. So write the division step, okay? So I'm going to take, whoops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to take my function for f of x and plug it in up top here for f of x. I'm going to take my function for g of x and plug it in on the bottom for g of x. So I have on the top, f of x is 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 divided by g of x on the bottom is x plus 1. And again, we can actually divide this eventually, but you've not learned how to do that yet. So for now, this is going to be your answer. And I don't think they ask about domain restrictions at this point. So that's just your final answer. The function on top divided by the function on the bottom. Okay, and then there's a word problem. So it says a company's profit is the difference. So remember difference, that's a key word for us. That means we're going to subtract. So difference means subtraction. It's the answer to a subtraction problem. Of its revenue, money made, and its cost, money spent, okay? And then it gives us, I gave you actually this little reminder. So that's kind of what it's saying. Profit equals revenue minus cost. Suppose that the cost of a function for a company is, and then it gives you our first equation. So the cost, I'm going to highlight in green right here, is this big long expression. 0.02x squared plus 50x plus 2,000, where x is the number of items sold in thousands. Its revenue, this is our second function, is r of x equals negative 0.03x squared plus 600x. Find the profit function. So what this is asking us to do is take p of x, that stands for profit, equals r of x is this orange function, revenue, and you can't see that super well, but basically I'm gonna plug the revenue function right in there for the orange, okay? And then minus c of x, that's our cost. Our cost function is c of x, so that's gonna be the orange function minus the green function, okay? And we just have to simplify a little bit on this one. Okay, so I'm gonna say my profit, P of x, equals orange is what I start with. So I'm gonna plug that in, negative 0.03x squared plus 600x minus the green function. And again, you'll see I'm putting that in parentheses. So 0.02x squared plus 50x plus 2,000. And I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be looking for, so we want to distribute this negative and simplify at least a little bit, okay? So this just stays the same. I have negative 0.03x squared plus 600 minus, and then we're distributing a negative to all those, so all of those are going to become negative. 0.02x squared, negative 50x, negative 2,000. And then you want to combine anything that we can. So negative 0.03x squared, negative 0.02x squared is negative 0.05x squared. We have an x term right here, negative 50x. And then we have 600 and negative 2,000, be negative 1,400. And that is our function for profit. That's what they're asking us for. So find the profit function P of x. And there you go. Okay, that's it. That's kind of a summary of combining functions for two